Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. Man Risa.
And I'm Edna. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Minister plays down jump in new welfare applicants since court ruling in their favour.
Apple signs deal with China Mobile to sell iPhones to hundreds of millions of new customers.
Russian president releases punk rocker from jail, but she calls it a PR stunt. The government has received at least 475 welfare applications from new immigrants who've been here for less than 7 years, after the Court of Final Appeal ruled in their favour last week.
But Welfare Minister Matthew Cheung is playing down concerns about the burden on the social security system. ATV's Arthur Urquiola reports.
In a landmark ruling last Tuesday, Hong Kong's highest court said new immigrants should not have to wait 7 years to be eligible for welfare benefits. The Court of Final Appeal described the 7-year requirement as unconstitutional. The ruling triggered fears that local resources will be strained by an influx of new immigrants claiming benefits. This afternoon, Labour and Welfare Secretary Matthew Cheung revealed that up until last Friday, there had already been 475 welfare applications by people who initially weren't eligible because they're not permanent residents. But the welfare chief tried to play it down, saying the increase in public spending may not be as high as people think. Cheung insisted that those applying for comprehensive social security assistance payments had to meet stringent requirements, and the social welfare department would continue carrying out detailed checks and assessments. He also pointed out the effect of the ruling may be partially offset, as those living in the city now eligible for welfare would no longer apply for handouts from the Community Care Fund, which helps those outside the social safety net. Just yesterday, Financial Secretary John Tsang warned that the government, meaning taxpayers in this case, would inevitably have to foot the higher bill, and he has asked his team to assess the impact of the court ruling. Local delegate to the National People's Congress, Maria Tam, said on a radio show this morning that an interpretation of the basic law is not warranted, and the decision by the Court of Final Appeal, the CFA, should be respected.
This is a CFA decision, and I believe it's within the authority of the high degree of autonomy of Hong Kong, and therefore not a suitable case for consideration of interpretation of the basic law. Now that we have a CFA decision, I think, that's the law. And I'm afraid the Hong Kong government has to, comply with it.
There are fears that allowing newcomers to claim welfare payments will also increase resentment towards mainlanders, who have already been blamed for sky-high property prices and shortages of infant milk formula.
Hong Kong people and the mainlanders, there are good times, there are bad times. I think we have to take both. On the one hand, they are here to support our economy. On the other hand, we have to make accommodation.
Tam also pointed out that the one-way permit scheme allowing up to 150 mainlanders to come to Hong Kong each day is for family reunions, and the central government is the authority granting approval. Tam warned that not allowing these people to enter the city could leave the administration open to legal challenges through judicial reviews. On the chief executive election in 2017, Tam insisted that nominating candidates is not a universal right. Tam, who's a member of the Basic Law Committee, said people cannot just focus on universal suffrage while weakening or undermining the role of the nomination committee. She also believes that Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying was not being targeted by Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director Wang Guangyao when he called on the top leaders of Hong Kong and Macau to list their shortcomings along with their achievements in their annual reports to Beijing. Tam said Wang's demand was expected due to the higher standards set for central government officials. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
US tech giant Apple has reached a deal to sell its popular iPhone on the mainland through state-owned China Mobile, the world's biggest phone carrier.
That gives Apple access to 760 million customers in a country while it's trailing rivals like Samsung.
But real success may depend on the price of iPhones, which are expensive, and the quality of the carrier's 4G network. This year's much-anticipated tech deal has finally arrived, and it's been tied up with a nice shiny bow just in time for Christmas. After years of negotiations, state-owned China Mobile has struck a multi-year deal to bring Apple's iPhone to the world's largest mobile network next month. The new iPhone 5S and iPhone 5C will be available for pre-registration on China Mobile's website from Wednesday, Christmas Day. In a joint statement with Apple today, China Mobile Chairman Xi Guohua said the company knows there are many China Mobile customers and potential new customers who are anxiously awaiting the incredible combination of iPhone on China Mobile leading network. The long-awaited deal is expected to give Apple iPhone sales a massive boost in its number 2 market after the US. At the end of November, the mainland had 1.23 billion mobile subscribers. Demand for iPhones, once hugely popular on the mainland, have slumped there as lower-priced rival smartphones from Samsung and Chinese companies entered the market. Apple iPhones can currently be used on China Mobile's 2G network, but not on its higher-speed 3G network, due to a homegrown standard the carrier has adopted. The financial terms of the deal were not announced, nor were the details of pricing and availability for its latest iPhone, the 5S and 5C lines, which Apple said would be available at a later date. The phones will go on sale in China Mobile's retail stores on the 17th of January for the first time, but customers will be able to pre-register on Christmas Day. While mainland users are generally upbeat, some have raised concerns about the cost of the devices to be offered by China Mobile. The unsubsidized price of the iPhone 5, a model with slightly reduced cost to appeal to budget-conscious consumers, is $550 in America, but higher in other countries, often due to tax and regulatory costs. On the mainland, the 5C sells at more than $700. It's a big move for Apple to a mass market in a country with an average annual income of about $4,000 a month, less than 1/10 the US level, and where customers are still making the transition from regular mobile phones to more advanced smartphones. So Apple may have to come up with a cheaper version of its iPhone to earn its bite of the lucrative mainland mobile market.
Back in Hong Kong, for the first time, police are teaming up with a youth group in a joint effort to crack down on cybercrime targeting teenagers. The move comes after a surge in the number of youths falling victim to online scams, including sexual blackmail. ATV's Raymond Young reports.
Police painted a grim picture for the media today on a growing trend of teenagers falling prey to cybercrime in recent months. Between January and November, New Territory South Police received 731 reports of technology-related crime. That's up from 472 cases during the same period last year, a surge of 54.9%. Of those cases, 199 involved victims aged 24 or younger, up from 136 in 2012. More than 60 of them were scammed while making purchases at online auction websites, while 59 others met swindlers playing online games. Another alarming trend is the sharp rise in the number of cases related to naked chats, where victims are blackmailed after taking photos or videos in compromising positions. A total of 441 cases were reported citywide for the first 11 months of this year, an 8-fold increase from 49 a year ago. Victims as young as 14 were asked for money, amounting to $1.6 million. New Territory South Superintendent Simon Chan said students and jobless people are targeted because they stay at home for long hours and tend to make friends online. Chan announced they will try to contain the situation with 2 E's: education and early intervention. Starting next year, police will refer teenagers exposed to such crimes to counselors at the Hong Kong Federation of Youth Groups. Named Project iSmart, the scheme will also produce educational videos based on real cases to warn teenagers to be alert when carrying out such activities. But it will be a voluntary program. The project will be rolled out in Tsuen Wan and Kwai Ching districts first. Raymond Yang, ATV News.
Beauty industry representatives have criticized the government's working group on regulating them as biased and unfair, and called on officials to consider their livelihoods when reviewing the trade. During a LegCo meeting on regulating the sector today, doctors also ruled out working with beauticians to carry out treatments because the medical code of practice doesn't allow them to.
More than a year has passed since a woman died and 3 others fell seriously ill after receiving blood transfusion therapy at the DR beauty salon chain. The tragedy prompted an urgent review of an industry that critics say has for too long operated with little government oversight. Last month, the government steering committee reviewing the regulation of private healthcare facilities proposed allowing only doctors to perform high-risk procedures such as Botox injections, liposuction, chemical peels and dental bleaching. Today, during LegCo's health panel meeting, medical professionals and beauty trade representatives continued the debate over how to regulate the multi-billion-dollar industry. The government wants to draw a line between what can be handled by beauty practitioners and what must be handled by medical professionals. But the medical profession does not think the two can work hand in hand. Hong Kong Medical Association President Tse Hung Hing made it clear that there's no room for cooperation between doctors and the beauty sector because the Medical Code of Practice does not allow doctors to collaborate with non-medical personnel to provide a service to the public. Tse, who was also a member of the government's working group, said he's disappointed that the administration had failed to clearly differentiate between beauty treatments and medical procedures. But Amy Hui, chairwoman of the Hong Kong Beauty and Fitness Professionals General Union, slammed as unfair the government's adoption of a broad brush approach to regulate an entire industry. Hui said allowing doctors only to handle certain procedures would hurt the livelihood of many beauticians, several of whom have spent thousands of dollars renting medical equipment for their salons. She also complained that the beauty trade representatives on the working group tasked with tightening regulations of their industry were outnumbered by doctors. Cosmetic procedures like those involving applications of energy, such as laser, infrared light or ultrasound, would not be covered under the government's proposed guidelines.
Although the use of laser has become more effective, it is not without hazards. We firmly state that the use of Class 3B or above lasers on humans should be restricted to be performed by trained medical and dental practitioners.
Health Undersecretary Sophia Chan insisted that when it comes to regulating the beauty sector, the government's priority is safety and the risk involved on the part of the patients. Chan added that a proposal to regulate medical devices like lasers would be put to lawmakers by early next year. Before the health panel meeting began this morning, around 100 beauty industry workers dressed in black staged a protest outside the LegCo building. They argued that if the government regulated the beauty trade's use of medical devices, many salons would fold and the industry itself would find it tough to stay afloat. They also urged the government not to rush into regulating the sector without properly consulting them first. Turning overseas, anti-government protesters in Thailand have surrounded a stadium to stop candidates from registering for a snap election in February.
But first, in a world roundup, the Russian president has released a member of the punk band Pussy Riot from jail. Here's Arthur Urquiola.
She walked out of prison a free woman, but Maria Alyokina is not over the moon. She and another member of her band Pussy Riot were granted an amnesty by Russian President Vladimir Putin, but the performer said he had ulterior motives. I was keen to reject the amnesty. However, the prison was ordered to release me, said Alyokina. She branded Putin's move as a PR exercise ahead of the Winter Olympics Russia will host in February. The Pussy Riot band members, who were due to be freed in March, were jailed last year for performing a protest song in Moscow's main cathedral. Last Friday, Putin pardoned one of his fiercest critics, former oil tycoon Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who has since been reunited with his family in Germany. Anti-government protesters in Thailand have disrupted the registration of candidates for February's snap election. Thousands of demonstrators besieged a stadium in the Thai capital, preventing many hopefuls from signing up. But they have until Friday to complete the process. The protesters are demanding the formation of an unelected People's Council to draw up rules for a new election. Their aim is to ensure that caretaker Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra and members of her family will be shut out of politics altogether. But Yingluck has said she'll contest the polls, which her party is likely to win, because it has strong support in Thailand's most populous provinces. Former NBA star Dennis Rodman has ended his third trip to North Korea without seeing his friend for life, Kim Jong-un. The retired basketballer was mobbed by the media when he arrived in Beijing after his visit to Pyongyang. He was asked whether he was dejected about not being able to meet Kim.
Nope, I'm not worried about it. I'll see him again.
Rodman said he was in Pyongyang to train Korean basketballers for a game next month in honor of Kim's birthday. The visit came days after Kim's powerful uncle Jang Sung-taek was executed, apparently for not towing the party line. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Still to come on ATV's main news tonight. Icy weather claims lives and causes disruptions in North America.
Football action from Premier League and La Liga.
Soccer fever, amazing December. Soccer fever, Inverness CT versus Celtic, Sunday night at 8:30, live on World Channel. Watch the live show on your phone and ATV website. You don't have to go to Japan, you're already there. Follow Begin Japanology into the world of Japanese culture. Experience the traditional and modern life. Reveal the pursuit of romance and perfection. Every angle presents a unique Japan. Documentary World, Begin Japanology, tonight at 9. Every day we learn, from him, from her, from someone we barely know. But what does it mean to you and me? Find out the answers on Check In Current News, Global 3000, Wednesday night at 8.
Somebody help!
What's going on? Accident or revenge?
They killed a man.
It's your fault!
Guilt keeps torturing them. Only by facing the dark secret can they finally be redeemed. Mega Hit 900, Ghost Whisperer, Friday night at 9.
What happens out there is real. Get the latest European news and current affairs. Whatever happens, when it happens, you're always the first to know. Check In Current News, European Journal, tonight at 8.
For Hong Kong and our future, we welcome your valuable opinions during the public consultation for the policy address and the budget.
The government has unveiled a new website for students to find courses at self-financing post-secondary institutions.
Officials have dismissed concerns about over-enrollment at some institutions. According to the government, the new concourse website launched today allows students to search for information on self-financing post-secondary institution programs. The $1 million site lets them know about the post-secondary sector, government support measures, graduate progression pathways, and scholarship information. The Committee on Self-Financing Post-Secondary Education says while it's not compulsory for institutions to provide full information, there's enough transparency.
There are a lot of disclosures about the number of students that they expect to enroll, the fees to be charged, the application fees, if any. So from that perspective, a lot of the information are being made available through concourse. And all these will enhance the transparency of the sector.
The Deputy Secretary for Education dismissed concerns about over-enrollment.
We haven't detected any over-enrollment cases or serious over-enrollment cases in this academic year. So we are pleased to report that since the introduction of this transparency arrangement, we have seen more self-regulation on the part of the institutions.
The committee has already uploaded information for students interested in the 2014 to 2015 academic year.
Wintry conditions have gripped large parts of North America as tens of millions of people hit the roads ahead of the festive holiday season.
Treacherous road conditions were blamed for at least 8 deaths in the US, while in Canada hundreds of thousands of people were left shivering after power lines were cut. Raymond Young reports.
A massive storm has pounded the Canadian province of Ontario, downing power lines and leaving 350,000 people without electricity. The worst hit was the provincial capital, Toronto, where 250,000 residents have no power. City officials hope supplies will resume before Christmas. Hundreds of trees in Toronto came crashing down during the storm, which also caused a series of road accidents and disrupted flights in the province. In the US, snow plows were kept busy in New York State, which shivered through an ice storm over the weekend. Motorists in the upstate city of Plattsburgh had to scrape ice off their cars before they could set off. Ice storms also hit various states in the US Midwest and were blamed for at least 8 deaths on the roads. The icy conditions made driving treacherous at a time when about 90 million Americans are on the roads for family reunions and holidays ahead of the festive season. Weather forecasters have warned travelers to stay alert for freak weather conditions. While many states are hit by ice and snow, some are facing tornadoes, strong winds and flash floods. In Hancock, Indiana, cars broke down while trying to get through flooded streets. And in the nearby town of Franklin, a cemetery was flooded, causing extra grief to those with relatives buried there. Raymond Young, ATV News.
Time now for sports with Brittyn, Clennett.
And there's been a goal feast in Spain.
Indeed, Barcelona were involved in a 7-goal thriller. And in England, Everton have moved into the top 4 in the Premiership after beating Swansea.
Neither Everton nor their host Swansea could find the back of the net in the first half of their Premier League clash at Liberty Stadium. The breakthrough finally came in the 66th minute when Seamus Coleman put Everton in the lead. Swansea retaliated by going on the offensive and were rewarded when Dwight Tindley's volley was deflected in off Brian Oviedo. With 6 minutes remaining, 20-year-old Ross Barkley gave Everton all 3 points with a superb free kick. The 2-1 victory took Everton to 4th place, just 2 points behind current leaders Liverpool. Barcelona were without their star strikers Lionel Messi and Neymar when they met Getafe in an away match. Their absence was felt when Sergio Escudero shocked the La Liga leaders by opening the scoring after 10 minutes. Then 4 minutes later, Barca were 2 down after Lisandro Lopez powered in a free header. But Pedro came to the rescue, scoring a hat-trick in 9 minutes, the first goal coming on 34 minutes. The Spanish international then fired from the edge of the penalty area to equalise. His third came just before the break, giving Barcelona a 3-2 lead at half-time. Pedro turned provider midway through the second half, setting up Cesc Fabregas to volley in Barca's 4th. Fabregas' penalty shot put the icing on the cake of the 5-2 triumph. Barca topped the table on goal difference as they and Atletico Madrid both have 46 points.
To winter sports now, the world's top skiers and snowboarders have been competing in Italy and Canada ahead of the Winter Games in Russia next year.
Canada's David Duncan continued his impressive run at the Ski Cross World Cup, collecting his 2nd gold in 2 days at the event in the northern Italian town of San Candido. The 31-year-old fended off competition from Austria's Andreas Matt and German Daniel Bernacker to win the men's freestyle final. And victory was even sweeter for Duncan because his 2 victories earned him qualification for the Winter Olympics in the Russian resort of Sochi in February.
The middle section. It's where I carry the most amount of speed. I've been doing it all week here in the splits. I know that section I ski fast, and when I've been behind, that's where I made my passes. It also helps that my start has been consistently good. Not the quickest, but good. You know, it's nice to have that consistency to get me out there, either one or two, and then just hold them off all the way down to the bottom.
Katrin Müller took the honours in the women's contest. The Swiss finished ahead of Canada's Marielle Thompson and Heidi Zacher of Germany. Over in Alberta, Canada, the world's best gathered for the Snowboard Cross World Cup. Australia's Jared Hughes clinched the gold in the men's contest. German Konstantin Schad took silver, and the bronze went to American Alex Daybold. Hughes bagged 1,000 points for the victory to stretch his lead in the overall standings to 320 points. American Lindsay Jacobellis won the women's event, out-sprinting home favourite Dominique Maltais. But Jacobellis lags behind the Canadian in the overall standings by 240 points. And a look at the weather before we go. It was mainly fine today. Temperatures varied from 11.3 to 17.9 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 45 and 74%. Winds were moderate, coming in from the northeast. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 4. Tomorrow's UV index will be about 4 as well. Now for a look at the weather in the region. A winter monsoon is bringing cold and dry weather to southern China. And on to the satellite images. As you can see, the weather is generally fine over southern China. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. Mainly fine tomorrow, but expect cold weather in the morning. Temperatures will range between 12 and 17 degrees. Clear skies ahead as it warms up to 18 degrees on Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Now for tomorrow's air pollution levels. General stations will be medium to high at 50 to 85. Roadside levels will be high to very high at 80 to 130. And finally, here's the weather around the world.
Some main news for Monday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Edna.
I'm Brittyn Clennett.
And I'm Anne Sim. Thanks for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, check in current news, European Journal.
ATV wishes you a Merry Christmas.
What defines us? What shapes our destiny? Giving up a fancy job to help people in the city slums. Spending all her life educating people about how important the environment is. Life is like film. He finds art everywhere. Pursuits tell you what inspires and motivates them. All about documentary. Pursuits. Tonight at 10. Current events. Controversial issues. In-depth accounts of the latest news and happenings that impact us all. Get to the heart of the matter. Get the inside story. Tuesday evening at 6:55. Being a child is a bed of roses. But in Japan, the truth is that preschoolers might never have had it tougher. Children have to fight to enter a better school. To reach the goal, every detail is carefully considered. No parents would think it's too much in order for their children to learn. All about documentary. Being a child. Tuesday night at 10.
What happens now could be prevented in the future. What was impossible yesterday might become possible tomorrow. Let's find out how science makes our world a better place. Tomorrow Today, Saturday night at 7.
7 couples, 30-day trip. It's lifetime happiness to travel around amazing sights. But it could also be a nightmare, because you cannot predict when you'll be voted to go home.
Chin chin.
Leisure time, coach trip. Tonight at 8:30. Soccer Fever, amazing December. Watch live shows on your phone and the ATV website.